Greetings, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of this series on what the Bible says about death and dying. Before going into what the Bible says, however, let's first take a look at some common responses to death. Perhaps you can think of others, but I have identified 4 common responses. First, there is the idea that the dead live on in our memories. This seems to be a common approach by those who don't believe in any kind of ontological life after death. Since everything we are is material, then there can be no real existence beyond the grave. Our total self died when our body died. To put a good face on death, people in this category often talk about the person living on in their memory. One of the earliest expressions of this sentiment comes from the first-century Roman politician Marcus Tullius Cicero, who wrote, "The life of the dead is placed in the memory of the living." We find a modern expression of this idea in a comment I found on a blog post about how atheists deal with grief. One of the commenters writes, "Death for me is final and nothing can ever change that. What is left are the memories and contributions of the person who died. If we live on at all, it's in the minds and hearts of those who knew us and in the things we leave behind, such as art, music, literature, relationships, children, and so on." Another response to death we often see is that it is a natural phase of the life cycle. Khalil Gibran expresses this view when he writes, "Life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one." While not everyone who expresses this idea is a pantheist, it is a response consistent with pantheism. Pantheism sees everything that exists, including ourselves, as part of one universal divine being. All forms of reality are modes of the being of God. Death, therefore, is not an enemy that we should fear, but a part of a coherent system. It is one of the many expressions of the one divine being. After death, the person, who is not a separate identity, but an expression of the divine, is absorbed back into the one essence of the universe. A third response to death is that of hopeless resignation. We might call this the agnostic view. Since we don't know what happens after death, according to this view, if anything happens at all, we resign ourselves to the fact that we will never again see our deceased loved ones. We see this view expressed in the Sesame Street episode where the staff dealt with the death of Mr. Hooper, who was played by Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets, who died in 1990 at the age of 53.
And last but not least, ta-da!
Oh, look at that one. That's nice.
So beautiful.
That's nice.
Great.
That is really nice. Can I see
that's
it?
nice.
Oh, that's really good.
Really
looks like it.
Yeah,
Sure.
you captured him.
Wow, that's beautiful, Big Bird.
Oh, thank you.
Really nice.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful.
Well, I can't wait till he sees it. Say, where is he? I want to give it to him. I know. He's in the store.
Big Bird?
Hmm?
He's not in there.
Oh. Then where is he?
Big Bird, don't you remember we told you Mr. Hooper died? He's dead.
Oh, yeah. I remember. Well, I'll give it to him when he comes back.
Big Bird, Mr. Hooper's not coming back.
Why not?
Big Bird, when people die, they don't come back.
Ever?
No, never.
Why not?
Well, Big Bird, they're dead. They can't come back.
Well, he's gonna come back. Why, who's gonna take care of the store? And who's gonna make my birdseed milkshakes and tell me stories?
Big Bird.
I'm going to take care of the store. Mr. Hooper, he left it to me. And I'll make you your milkshakes and we'll all tell you stories and we'll make sure you're okay.
Sure, we'll look after you.
Oh. Well, it won't be the same.
You're right, Big Bird. It'll never be the same around here without him.
Mm.
But you know something? We can all be very happy that we had a chance to be with him and to know him and to love him a lot when he was here.
Yeah.
And Big Bird, we still have our memories of him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, our memories. Right. Why, memories, that's how I drew this picture. From memory.
Good,
Yeah. And we can remember him and remember him and remember him. Much as we want to. But I don't like it. It makes me sad.
We all feel sad, Big Bird.
He's never coming back?
Never?
No.
Oh, I don't understand. You know, everything was just fine. Why does it have to be this way? Give me one good reason.
Big Bird, it has to be this way because.
Just because?
Just because.
Oh. You know, I'm gonna miss you, Mr. Looper.
That's Hooper, Big Bird. Hooper.
Right.
The fourth response is that of gloomy silence. This is probably the most common response to death. As mentioned in the previous video, death is the elephant in the room. The writer of the Epistle to the Hebrews speaks of death as a slave master who has bound humanity in the grip of fear. Since therefore the children share in flesh and blood, Christ himself likewise partook of the same things, that through death he might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is, the devil, and deliver all those who through fear of death were subject to lifelong slavery. Hebrews chapter 2, verses 14 and 15. As servants in the presence of a tyrannical master cower in silence, the human race keeps silent in the face of the dreaded grim reaper. As we will see in the next video, none of these views is consistent with biblical revelation. I'm trying to keep these videos short, so I'll stop there, and we will continue in the next video of this series. Hope to see you there.